Barney's Radio, Pearl Jam.
Hell, hell, what's his hell belong way to concrete? Oh, yeah.
Hell, Wrecking Hills.
Eddie Vedder, everybody.
Welcome back, listeners, to the final segment of the Rhythm Encounter 2013 Music of the Year special. We've traversed all the dungeons, we've gotten all the elemental artifacts, and we're going to fight the final boss. And the final boss is you listeners, the listeners' picks, to be specific. We have a list of about 20 tracks that you guys submitted to us either through email, Twitter, message boards, what have you. Thank you very much for getting in touch with us and telling us what you wanted to hear. And Steven, would you like to explain the format?
Most of you sent exact tracks. Some of you said pick a track from this game, in which case I went and picked my favorite track from that game because abuse of power.
Abuse of power.
You know, so we blocked them together. I did my very best to get everybody. If I missed somebody, feel free to yell at me and I'll make it up to next year.
Next year, he means March.
This is our grand finale. I was going to use the metaphor. If we were on a JRPG soundtrack, we'd be like the track in Italian, like Le Tresor Interdate, or something like that. So
yeah,
that is what this section is. And so we've got them blocked together in awesomeness, and I'm really impressed with what you guys picked out. So this is going to be a lot of fun to listen to. It's like chaotic. So I'll go ahead and introduce the first four because I'm awesome. Coming up from Retta, who sent me quite a few messages on the board, and I'm sorry I couldn't reply to every single individual track, but I did listen to all of them, and in particular, you requested Atrocious Raid from Sen no Kiseki, which we got coming up, and then Ice Ridge of Noltia, Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles, Omega System from Xenosaga 2, and Hope and Future on the same page from Soul Sacrifice, and those are from Holy Kale. So coming up, we're going to go ahead and take a listen to Atrocious Raid, Ice Ridge of Noltia, Omega System, and Hope and Future on the same page.
Atrocious Raid, Senno Kiseki. My first thought was, that's so Falcom. It's kind of like That's So Raven, but Falcom. Because it has violin and chorus and Falcom-y things. It is definitely a final boss-y sounding track. And we played a track on the most recent episode from Senno Kiseki that had, I think it was actually the final decisive battle. By previous episode, I mean previous segment, because it was in my picks. But Atrocious Raid was one of my other selections that I did not get to get in the show. So thanks for doing it for me, Retta.
Yeah, right. My first note is not atrocious, unlike the title. Yeah, that around a minute and a half, I think, is like a solo piano part that's just awesome. The whole thing gives me a Wild Arms vibe. And again, I've been told it's like the 3,500th game in the series, so I can't get into it with that one. But I've definitely liked the music I've heard from Senno Kiseki the most out of all of those Kiseki tracks we've heard. Not that I didn't like other ones, but these ones have really gelled with me.
We're like 5 games behind, so someday.
Well, with the rate Exceed goes, we'll get caught up in 10 years. But we will get caught up.
Poor Exceed.
Inevitably.
That's the thing, is they'll get us caught up. They just can't do it very quickly.
Yep. Yeah.
But hey, better late than never.
And then another Falcom track with similar violin deliciousness happening was Ice Ridge of Noltea. And that's the arranged version, actually, from East 1 and 2 Chronicles. So that track existed back in the day, but this is a better re-instrumented version of it, and I think it's great.
Yeah, that you pointed out that you thought the violin was Falcom-y, and it definitely is. I think I even said that in an earlier section, but it's crazy to me that that's like a song that's been arranged so many times, because there's 900 versions of the first East, that it's like you're hearing an arrangement of an arrangement of an arrangement of an arrangement. So it's interesting.
Probably, yeah.
I listened to one of the earlier versions of the track, and it's kind of cool how it's evolved, because I mean it's still the same melody, but it's neat all the little flourishes and stuff they've added to it. And we were talking about in an earlier segment how you feel like you're in on a game when the music has history, and if they can capture that kind of history, and I really feel like this track captures it too. You get a sense that this is not that it's an arrangement, but you get the sense that this is a track that has some
has a little bit of history behind it.
Some history. Yeah, exactly, and I like that a lot.
I mean, one of the things I actually liked about the track, and that I've been trying to tune my ear towards listening to mostly, is the piano work, and I actually felt like that it has almost this gallop step feel to it. It's very it's the rhythm behind it is consistent throughout the entire song, and adds the whole pacing behind it, and that was something I could really get behind the entire way through. Same with the drum work, even though it sounded a little bit mechanical, but it added a lot to keeping that pace up the entire way through, which is something I look forward to in every songs like that. They have that semi-epic feel to it. I just want to see if it can keep it up from beginning to end.
I dig. And then Omega System. You guys had some words about this one. I liked... So I didn't play Xenosaga 1. I watched all of the cutscenes because I just didn't really care for it.
Did you get
the
DVD?
Did I get the DVD? No. This was in the ye olde days of YouTube. I watched some guy that basically just took every cutscene, put them together, and then put text interludes in between. It was Shion and Co. run through a really long dungeon and fight Gnosis. Yeah, but okay. I played 2, and it's funny because when I played 2, I liked it a lot. And I didn't realize until sometime later that 2 has this reputation for being the worst of the series. And it is very time-consuming. And that's why whenever I hear Omega System, I always think of how freaking long I was in that area and how long the battles took. But it feels Xenosaga to me in that way where it feels kind of disquieting, and that boop, 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 boop thing in the background really gives me a Deus Ex 1 vibe from the soundtrack. And I mean that in a positive way. It sounds really cool to me that it's mystery and also disquiet. I don't know. I like it.
I don't think it did a lot for me, honestly. Not to say it's a bad song. It's just, I guess, boring is a really strong word, but
I think without the context, maybe it's a little bit weaker, because I can imagine the dungeon. And I think that's actually the case with not all of Shinji Hosoe's songs, or even many of them, but I would... Because the in-game music was composed by Shinji Hosoe in Xenosaga 2. The cutscenes and everything else were Yuki Kajiura, and that was definitely the superior half of the soundtrack. But so the in-game stuff actually reminds me a lot of what you hear in 999 and VLR. In that I think it's great in context, and for me, because I can connect it to my context, I remember it. But I think maybe it's a little bit... Maybe it doesn't quite hit you as well if you don't have the background of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's mostly how I feel about it as well, because I never played Xenosaga 2. I only played 1, so I never actually got the feel of anything behind it. So so listening to the song just fresh with no context whatsoever, I mean, nothing really changes. It's more atmospheric than anything else, which doesn't make it bad. It's just that.
Well, it suits the dungeon, because if I recall, it's very, very lengthy.
Yeah, I think if it was...
your word for it.
Yeah, if it's that long, if it was anything but atmospheric, I could see it maybe like grating on you later. No matter how good or bad the song could have been. So yeah, I think that was probably the right call then. If it's would you say a 9-hour dungeon?
Well, I don't know if 9 hours is an exact number, but I remember being there for a while. That might have just been because I kept dying or the battles.
Considering some of the stuff I went through in Xenosaga 1, it's not actually like out of the realm of possibilities. Like being stuck on the ship the first time you get on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So moving on to a game that I am the only one who has. Well, Derek has played it, but he didn't like it. Soul Sacrifice. I really enjoyed the game. I was less hot on the soundtrack. I liked it a lot. I think what my issue was that it didn't sound like what I was expecting, which isn't to say it was bad, because I did like the soundtrack, especially in game, but I think outside of the game it's a little harder to grab it. But this is a case where the context helps, because it wasn't what I was expecting from Mitsuda. It was very Mitsuda trying to do the atmospheric dark Western RPG sound rather than Mitsuda trying to replicate Xenogears and Chrono Cross, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think that's why a lot of people maybe weren't quite as hot on the soundtrack. But this track in particular I really liked, especially around 137 when it picks up, and like it's so depressing, because spoiler alert, that whole game is depressing, and when this song plays is a particularly depressing moment. So the vocals and the background choir this was definitely one. If you asked me to pick like 2 of my favorite tracks from the soundtrack, I'd probably have this one on there.
You're telling me a game named Soul Sacrifice is depressing. Although the title of the track has both hope and future. It starts with hope. I guess future is not an optimistic word, but hope is.
Well, future could be optimistic if it's the end of a seminal movie series title.
True.
I mean, the fact that it even says you might have a future is in and of itself, optimistic.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think with something like this, you run the risk of, with the soundtrack, it's so oppressive that I think it can sort of like weigh you down. But I don't think that's a flaw in this song, and I think this is one of the stronger pieces from the soundtrack. And overall, I do think the soundtrack is very good. I just think the burden of expectation might have shocked a lot of people into not liking it at first.
Probably.
But when you've played the game, I think it helps, because it works really well in the context of the game.
I tend to have a pretty bad habit of judging vocal tracks, unfortunately. Some of them really gel with me easily, some of them don't. This one kind of fell in that gray area where I could, take it or leave it. Doesn't make, once again, going back to the same thing I say with every track, it doesn't make it a bad track, it's just, it doesn't stick out in my mind as much as, other tracks do. I found it kind of very calming, very relaxing the entire way through. It was a nice background noise kind of track, but nothing I would actually put on a playlist later and just want to listen to it.
All right, well, cool. We're going to move on to our next block of tracks now, and two of them are from Al Hizzy, who is my favorite white mage other than Mike and myself in Final Fantasy XIV. And
he's my second favorite bard.
An interesting story regarding this first track. 2 interesting stories. We'll save one for after. So Al thought that this track, it's Eternity, and he thought it was from Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden, which it is. It's one of the final boss songs in Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden, which you haven't played it. It's like an RPG Maker game where Charles Barkley has destroyed the world with the Chaos Dunk, and it's kind of the most wonderful Bizarro experiment ever. But it's actually not originally from that. It's from Mistwalker's Blue Dragon, which was one of the 2 games that they produced on Xbox 360, along with Lost Odyssey, which was, in my opinion, the far superior game. And we'll talk about why I like this track so much after we listen to it, and why Brian does not like it.
And we will certainly talk about how much I hate this track. I'm sorry.
No. There's history behind that, so we'll talk about that. And then after that, another pick from Al Hizzy, we have the main theme from Might and Magic 10 Legacy, which was very surprising to me. I like Jason Graves a lot, and it was like sort of what I was expecting, but wasn't. And then we have, and I'm going to butcher this Italian if it's Italian, it's Le Ali del Principio from Baten Kaitos Origins, and that's from Arclight, and also is Jubilife City from the Pokemans X and Y. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick listen to Eternity, Might and Magic 10 Legacy's main theme, Le Ali del Principio, and Jubilife City.
Fear and all in your eyes that you can see now. eternity. Hope despair in your mind. Without you, I'm free now. Seeking out what you can find. Staring through eternity. A light shining on my heart. Memory of forgotten love. Rays burning through the clouds. Down from the sky up above. This is the beginning. Here's where it all gets started. Under
hope nobody was wearing earphones. That song is something else. I'm really amused that Al Hizzy thought that was originally from Shut Up and Jam Gaiden.
Well, it fits because I was wrong. It doesn't play in the final boss. It plays when you fight Michael Jordan.
Of course, because why wouldn't it?
And yeah, it.
And welcome to Japan.
Sorry. It's so. Before I tell this story about why I know Eternity so well and why Brian knows it so well, it's sung by Deep Purple's. I think his name is Ian Gillan, and like it's just the goofiest song. Like it's. There's nothing else in Blue Dragon like it. It's like they were just like, hey, what can we do to make this incredibly bizarre? And they succeeded. And I actually...
It makes me sad. Sorry.
See, I actually liked the song. Brian did not like the song. And years ago, when Brian and I lived together... Actually, you know what, Brian? Why don't you tell your half of the story so it's told truthfully.
It makes me sad that nobody listening right now could probably hear my head slamming against the table repeatedly while I was listening to that song. Because I actually gave it another shot just for this show. That song has a little bit of history with me. I have nightmares about it still. A long time ago.
I was in Burma.
I was in Burma. And there was this guy who I really wanted to annoy. His name was Steven. And he was listening to this Linkin Park track. Got it a couple times. I was like, you know what? He likes that song so much, I'm going to replace it with something really annoying. And I found this sound clip of dial-up, like, sped up and slowed down with George Bush saying, "You just fell for the trap." And I replaced it with it because I knew he'd listen to it inevitably, and he did. And it was hilarious for all of about 30 seconds. Little did you know. That can of worms
Brian,
was open.
Let me tell the story with the appropriate gravitas. Later that night, after Brian had went to sleep, I sat on his computer and spent 7.5 hours replacing every single music track in his entire computer with Eternity, changing the track names. I changed every shortcut on his desktop to Hidden Files of Eternity. I changed every shortcut in his start menu to Eternity. I changed his Phantasy Star Online shortcut to Eternity. I went into his Windows sounds and made it so minimizing, maximizing, opening the start menu, shutting down, starting up, moving a window, resizing a window, all played Eternity. And the best part is you couldn't stop that one because it wasn't playing through the Windows system shell. I went through his system files and created, like, I would copy Eternity and I made it hidden and called it, like, sys32.mpv and just embedded them everywhere. Hours and hours and hours. Mm-hmm. I would say I ruined your computer with Eternity. So the next day, when Brian got on his computer, he clicked on it. Steve, you got me back. And then he clicked again.
Little did I know.
And the song overlapped itself, so it was playing twice on top of itself. And he goes, all right, dude, seriously. And then he opened a window, and it did it again. And then he went to play music, and it did it again. And it was wonderful. And the best part is that Brian goes, dude, I don't know why you spent so much time doing this, because I'm going to still fix it in like 10 minutes. Little did he know. Months and months later.
8 months later. I remember vividly. 8 months later, we're sitting in our living room with another listener, and we're all saying, hey, do you want to play some Bluebirds? I'm like, sure, I'll hop on Phantasy Star for a little bit. That sounds like a lot of fun. And sure as hell, I click on this icon to play a little bit of Phantasy Star with my good buddies, and what plays? 8 months later, I thought I'd gotten rid of everything else on my computer, and everyone had a good laugh about it, and I cried myself to sleep that night.
Yeah, pretty much my policy when being pranked is scorched earth retaliation. I like to discourage future pranks.
Monstrous. I probably would have choked you if that was your friend.
I think so, too.
I'm still scared. I'm on a completely different computer at this point. I'm still worried about clicking files I haven't clicked on in like a year or two because I still think it's going to play. I don't know why, but I still have that fear in my mind. So you know what? I don't think since that day, I don't think I've actually pranked you in that capacity.
Nope.
Too afraid of the bounce back?
It's not even that, man.
What could I do after that, right? So yeah, Eternity is a song that I like, Brian doesn't like, and is definitely very goofy. So thanks for picking that one out.
Yeah, it's really bizarre, and I like it because of that. It wasn't until like halfway through I looked over, I was like, wait a minute, this is from Blue Dragon? Of all the games, I never would have guessed.
Yeah. Well, Uematsu was like, hey, what can I do with this? And then the main theme from Might and Magic 10 is... I was really shocked by like how much I like that, because those games are sort of defined by having a soundtrack that like follows in their steps of their predecessor, I think, because they're all like it's meant to be a traditional experience. But I still, and that was traditional fantasy, but like the woodwinds in that song are just awesome. I really liked. I wanted to play that game for a while, and hearing that track, I was very pleased. The soundtrack, unfortunately, doesn't have any battle themes on there, but I've listened to a few of those too, and I like them all a lot.
Yeah, it's just kind of epic. I didn't really pick out anything in particular about that track. It just had kind of a cool epic feel, epic fantasy feel.
Yeah.
I got kind of like a Mass Effect feel from it. I don't know why. It sounds like kind of stupid, but I feel like I was seriously like almost like not suicide mission-esque, but like I felt like something great was about to happen, and it was a nice feel, like a lead up into something great with it. I mean, even that being the main theme of that game is still, I mean, that says a lot. Like, that's built for something, that's like in-game material for me, and like I dug it throughout the entire way through.
For sure. And then Baten Kaitos Origins, the entire soundtrack is amazing.
Why don't I have that yet?
Le Ali del Principio, sorry again, is just, it just encompasses everything that's great about Sakuraba when he's free to be a little more creative. Because sometimes he gets a bad rap for people who are like, oh, he's so repetitive, all the soundtracks sound the same. And in the cases of games like Star Ocean and Tales, it's because he's told to sound the same. Like, I love Tales games as much as the next guy, but Tales games are, there's kind of a science to producing a Tales game at this point. So the sound is, they want a sound. They want him to recreate that sound. But when he's able to be a little more creative, and in the case of both Baten Kaitos games, I think absolutely you get just, it has that dramatic sound you associate with Sakuraba, but just the vocals and just, it's like quiet beauty. That's what it is.
I like that he gets away from his usual trappings a bit in that track. And that's not to say that I'm of the opinion that Sakuraba stuff does get pretty samey, but he is also instructed to specifically create music in that kind of style, as far as I know. So it's cool to hear something a bit different. Another track that I really like from Baten Kaitos Origins is The Boundary Between the Wind and the Earth. That's the world map theme. I don't know if there's more than one, but
we played that.
At the very least on the first island, that's what you hear. It's a really good track. Yeah, I guess I'm reaching back to stuff we've already done, but hey, it's the 1-year anniversary.
What?
So it's appropriate. And then finally we listened to Jubilife City from Pokemon's X and Y. I'll pronounce it properly, Pokemon X and Y. Jazzy track, a little unexpected for a Pokemon game. I was
clicking through the selections that those ones are from Arclight, by the way, Baten Kaitos Origins and Pokemon, and this is going to sound bad, but I was shocked at how good both of those tracks were. And Jubilife City, I wrote it in my notes. I think that might be my favorite Pokemon song I've ever heard, because I love that piano. It has such, I feel like it's the sound they've been trying to create with that series and haven't had the hardware to do it until now. And it's just, it's so friendly, but also relaxed. Like the piano sounds so jazzy. It's like, I feel like I'm in a really comfortable bar drinking gin with friends while like there's not like soft mood lighting and like some lady in a red dress dancing on a piano or something. I don't know. Lisa? Or no, Julia from Final Fantasy VIII. And I get a stomachache every time I try to talk to her.
Okay. No, it's a leg cramp.
Oh, sorry.
You get a stomachache too.
I think you get a stomachache in Dissidia. Maybe it's a leg cramp. Maybe it's both. But yeah.
I was just making my usual weekly reference to The Room, the cinematic masterpiece of our generation.
It is.
Oh, I'm going to see that, by the way. On St. Patrick's Day, they're showing it at one of the theaters here. They're going to have a night showing of it, and we get to throw plastic spoons at the screen, and I'm so excited. I can't wait.
One of the seminal films of our generation.
Yeah, I've only seen it like 800 times.
Let it be known that Rhythm Encounter is an ardent supporter of Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, well, that's half true.
And Greg Sestero. Okay. We're a supporter of Tommy Wiseau continuing to do things, whatever they are.
That's fair.
But yeah, Jubilife City, great track. Anyone else have any particular thoughts on it?
I liked it the entire way through. In fact, I think I commented that I ended up listening to it on repeat a couple of times all the way through. Just because, I mean, it just has a great feel to it. I mean, I felt pretty happy. I mean, like, something about it, I just had like a smile on my face. It was just
yeah,
fun.
Like it captures what I think part of the reason people love Pokemon is that it's a friendly game experience, and like the title of the song is actually "How About a Song?" So I really feel like it's like, you went into like the jazz bar and like you got your drink and they were like, all right, how about a song? And you're like, yeah, play
exactly. I mean, like I said, it just, what you said, like I just felt good. I don't know, it's hard to put into words, but like it was lighthearted. I liked it.
So for our next block, we got some picks from Angelo, who has been listening to us for a long time. Thanks, Angelo. We appreciate your patronage of the fine arts. And Angelo picked 2 tracks, both of which I'm a big fan of. He picked from the Etrian Odyssey 3 Super Arranged Labyrinth 3/4. It's a fusion of the level of the 3rd Stratum and 4th Stratum dungeon themes from Etrian Odyssey 3, and then A Sign of Hope from Lost Odyssey. And then Glenn, and I believe he was formerly known as Glenn Gunner Zero on Twitter, requested 3 Minutes Clapping from The World Ends With You, which is an awesome song. And then my IRL friend, Mathieu, asked for the Low Rule Death Mountain theme from Zelda A Link Between Worlds. So let's go ahead and take a listen to Labyrinth 3-4, A Sign of Hope, 3 Minutes Clapping, and Low Rule Death Mountain.
things a little more smooth. The majority is still asleep. They're tired of those dreadful dreams. Now let me shout and wake you up. Let me wake you up. When the sunset dies, the sky so bright, she freaks me out with a secret smile. Stars above, stars to shine for miles and miles. I wonder why. Is this a curse or just a heart? No winding river where those flowers flow. I know you can stop its flow on a wave, so I have learned to swim until the time is up. I can't give up on you before the time is up. I leave all my regrets between the lines and lines. I am lost again until this time is up. I'll never give this up until this time is up. I can't give up on you before the time is up. I leave all my regrets between the lines and lines. I am lost again until this time is up. I'll never give this up. Why you won't tie me up? Get out of my way, cause I'm on my way. I don't care about imaginary boundaries, but somehow I'm afraid to go over them. Cover up all my scars and memories. Creativity is all that I got, so let me shout and wake you up. Let me wake you up. While the fireflies dance on a new moon night, she tempts me with her glistening eyes. The sky above, changing its color from dawn till dusk. I wonder why. Is this a curse or just a wrong guess? I'm floating on the clouds without wings. All of a sudden the end might come, so I don't act like someone else until the time is up. I can't give up on you before this time is up. I leave all my regrets between the lines and lines. I am lost again until the time is up. I'll never give this up until the time is up. I can't give up on you before the time is up. I leave all my regrets between the lines and lines. I'm confused again when the time is up. I'll take what I've got to take.
So Angelo picked two awesome tracks. Angelo, who I will always view you as Rhinoa's dog. I'm sorry. I like him, so, don't take that as a slight against you. He's a cool dog. He can turn into a gun cannon dog thing. Yeah, he's just, he's Angelo. And Angelo, the dog, picked an awesome Etrian Odyssey 3-track, which it's funny because I'm always waffling between whether 2 or 3 is my favorite soundtrack. I'm pretty sure it's 3 though. But the super arrange for that album for that soundtrack is rad. Like the bass in the beginning, like the high fidelity bass is channeling that FM bass, like that you know how it sounds in game. It's like ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. So it sounds super cool, and like around 2 minutes in, like the piano and the guitar start just jamming. I wrote so many notes that there's really no point in saying them all because it's just there are so many great different movements with the piano and the guitar and like the drums that it's just such a diverse song. I mean, it's 2 songs combined together, but so deftly and with such care that I just love it.
When it comes to the Etrian Odyssey Super Arrange albums in general, they really mean that. When they call it a Super Arrange, it's a Super Arrange. It's not just, well, we took the same track and we upped the fidelity. It's like, nah, they went all out. So there's just so much extra, so many new layers and so many new little nuances and, like you said, flourishes added to that track. It's so dynamic. They had the really cool reverb effect, the drum breakdown, guitar, saxophone, just all kinds of variety throughout. And I have to say I hadn't listened to that one yet, so I'm glad that we did. It's good.
Yeah, I like the last, I don't know, last third. It's like really, really kind of jazzy.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't agree? Oh, okay.
No, I definitely agree.
Okay. I like that a lot.
It's just Yuzo Koshiro. I've said this on several segments of the podcast so far. Just I don't understand how he is so prolific and yet manages to inject all of his music with such vibrancy. Well, except for Time and Eternity, but nobody really put any effort into that game. But this arrange was actually done by Yoshimi Kudo, and it's like it magnifies the strengths of the original track and shores up any sort of lulls they had. Mega thumbs up.
The only thing I really want to comment on the track was the awesome use of wind instruments. They're almost throughout the entire track. I mean, you don't really hear that a lot in games nowadays. It almost has like a not really tribal feel to it, but just it's original. It's different, and I loved it throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, like I don't know if I call it wind instruments. I mean, they might be, but I know what sound you're talking about. That like doo doo doo, like yeah,
it's like pipes almost. Like I don't know how to really like explain it. Just something about it. I just thought it was original. I hadn't heard it very much.
In this podcast, people without musical terminology. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it has a really cool sound. And then A Sign of Hope. I mean, we all know my thoughts on Lost Odyssey. It's amazing. And as Angelo and Derek pointed out, it plays during the reading sequences, and I can't remember if it plays during the actual story because it's been so long, but just the piano and the slow buildup of the strings, it immediately calls to mind everything about Lost Odyssey that makes me love it so much.
Mm-hmm. It's super poignant. To me, it evokes a lot of Joe Hisaishi's work. It sounds like something that you would hear in a Ghibli film. Very delicate, I agree. Very emotional, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the only word I could really think of to describe it was beautiful. Like the entire way through, it was expertly.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful. Yes, it was. Yes, I agree. Though I wrote that in my notes.
You wrote it was beautiful. Yes, it was, and then in parentheses, faux Italian.
Italian accent. Yes, that's exactly what I wrote.
Cool. And then after that, we listened to 3 minutes clapping, as opposed to 2 or 4 minutes clapping, which are wildly different, and we won't play them on this show. Not really, I'm just making stuff up. It's a pretty cool song. One of my favorite vocal tracks from The World Ends With You, and that was sent to us by Glenn, a.k.a. Glenn Gunner 0 on Twitter. So, cool dude, thank you for the suggestion. I'm trying to remember where specifically that plays in the game, but it's all kind of a mishmash as far as I can remember.
I don't think it was the ending theme. Yeah, I don't remember where it plays in the game either, but just I love that bass in there. Like he's just like slapping the bass like that dun 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 dun. Like it really makes me want to bob my head. Like I know the lyrics to that one because I love that soundtrack and definitely one of the cooler ones. Like it really gets that sort of like urban vibe of The World Ends With You really well.
It had a nice cadence to it. I'll give it that thing. I mean, I enjoyed listening to it. I mean, it sounds like something I'd run to. I don't know if that's a good way of putting it, but
it's got a good consistent beat, so yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. And then Low Roll Death Mountain, I believe when I first got there, I texted Mike or Derek or both, probably both, that it was awesome song, and they were both ahead of me. So I don't know how you guys feel now, but I feel like that's just an awesome arrangement. The production on it is fantastic, it really does justice to the original and to the people who like loved Link to the Past. Like it's so dramatic with like the snow and stuff. Super duper cool.
It very much feels like a dedication to the fans.
Oh yeah, for sure. I did not expect to hear, well, a couple of the songs in there that they carried over, but I think that's my favorite one that they updated.
Yeah, like it's funny though because I feel like the music in Link Between Worlds stands up well outside the game, but I in this case, just because the area looked so cool, like the snowy Death Mountain, I always think of like walking around in that terrifying area with the stupid Cyclopses that hit you and do like 9 hearts damage.
Yeah,
jerks.
All right, we've got 2 tracks left, so the final boss is coming up to its almost final form. This isn't even my true form! We can pretend like it's Wild Arms 3 and it has like 12 final forms, because that was just ridiculous. So
I don't have 4 days to fight it.
Yeah, I know, see? But you do have as much time as you need to listen to this podcast, because it's awesome! And portable. So we've got, first up, Souls of Fire from Dark Souls. This was suggested by Evil East Alliance, and we have played this song before, but, you know,
we love really you, so we're going to play it.
And yeah, we care about Evil East Alliance because he has always been a good supporter of the podcast, so we just want to include his pick in there. And then following that, we've got Derpy's theme from Ni no Kuni. It was submitted by Monsoon, and he also submitted The Desert from Penny Arcade 4.
I thought you said Derpy's theme.
What?
I thought you said Derpy's theme.
This is Derpy's theme.
No.
Hello.
Some people might argue that Drippy is Derpy, but I don't necessarily. I can't corroborate that.
He's not Derpy. He's Welsh. There is a difference.
I wish Derpy had a theme.
Derp. No. Oh, no.
Derpy's a pony.
I know. I realize
that. You know that. Oh, I'm impressed.
I'm not okay with this. Also submitted by Monsoon. Steven notes, not the Metal Gear Rising villain, Monsoon.
Well, that's what I thought right away. I was like, that's one of my favorite boss battles. But I don't think I'm going to slice you into a million pieces.
No, but he might be. We don't know that. Like, we've never confirmed.
Monsoon,
sure.
I know your icon on the boards is Laharl, I think, from Disgaea, but please confirm or deny after listening to this if you are, in fact, Monsoon.
And then finally, we're going to listen to Tokyo Map from Shin Megami Tensei 4. Conveniently, the soundtrack for this just came out like a couple days ago, officially. And that was submitted by Josh Bateman, who became an editor, probably because he liked our shows and content so much. We can go ahead and say this the shows. It's totally the shows.
Yeah.
But we enticed him, and he became an editor. He is, I almost can't say his name, Jotacon, because Stephen always calls him
Joctagon!
Step into the Joctagon.
Step into the Joctagon. You think anybody wants a roundhouse kick to the face while I'm wearing these bad boys? I don't think so.
So thank you for your submission, Josh, even though you're a staff member and you're a cheater. So coming up, we've got Souls of Fire from Dark Souls, Derpy's theme from Ni no Kuni, The Desert from Penny Arcade 4, and Tokyo Map from Shin Megami Tensei 4. Fire, cool track. Still not going to make me play Dark Souls, sorry.
That's okay.
Again, I mean, after the 9 chances I've given it, and 9 probably is not an exaggeration.
All I'm saying...
attempted to play Dark Souls upwards of 5 times, probably approaching 10, where I've made a character, sat down in front of a TV, and put 2 to 3 hours into it, and I'm just like, nope, not for me.
All I'm saying is that for a guy who misses the old Castlevanias and wants a 3D one, it's right there in front of you.
No, it's completely different. And maybe if Dark Souls didn't have a complete, butt ugly interface and ugly character models other than the enemies.
Well, you're supposed to wear armor.
I don't care. That's not an excuse for me. It's not going to work.
But the character models look fine once you wear armor. You just look
because you can't see them.
Well, yeah, because you look like a dork. But you're supposed to be ugly.
An awesome facet of a game to have a character creator that can only create ugly characters.
Well, that's because they're all zombies.
Derek, have you ever played World of Warcraft?
True beauty's on the inside, Derek.
Yeah, seriously.
They're
true
ugly
beauty's
too.
on the
Inside
inside.
of armor, apparently.
No, I'm superficial as hell. Get out of here.
So, get out. But yeah, Souls of Fire, my only comment that we didn't say from last time is Dark Souls, Dark Souls, Dark Souls. Brian and Mike, you've never commented on this track. Do you guys have anything you'd like to add?
Okay. I love that song. There's no other way for me to put it. I can't really even comment on what about it I liked a lot, just other than I dug it the entire way through.
There's a lot of peace to it.
Yeah.
One thing I will point out is that there was a little bit of confusion. So Firelink Shrine sounds very similar to that because it's sort of one of the main themes of the game. But that's Souls of Fire. I believe that's what plays on the in one of the introductory sequences or on the title screen. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it's not the Firelink Shrine theme, but it is gorgeous.
It's so very peaceful.
Makes you want to take a nap, which is funny because Dark Souls is not peaceful.
That's what Dark Souls makes you want to do in general.
Well, I think isn't that the idea of the song? Is it supposed to put you at ease and then kill you repeatedly?
Slap you in the face.
Well, it puts you at ease so you can have that sort of emotional respite from all the danger that's everywhere else.
After that, we listened to Drippy's theme.
Drippy.
Drippy's theme
from Ni no Kuni, and I actually think it's just the same song that plays in the Fairy Ground, which is the fairy village. Interesting thing is the DS version of Ni no Kuni was made first, and the PS3 version came after, obviously, because that's how things happen sequentially. I don't know why I specified that. But the fairy ground didn't exist in the DS version, as far as I'm aware, and that was one of the neat things that they added to the story, was you get to go and see where Drippy comes from and all his friends. So it's this song that plays in this very silly little... again, I hate to keep bringing up the comparison, but I mean, the art is by Studio Ghibli, so it feels very Ghibli, and it's like this weird sort of folksy Japanese aesthetic with all these little, it has these tiny buildings with the neon signs, and the fairies are doing stand-up comedy and being jokesters and stuff. It's really goofy, but it's one of the more memorable.
Oh, that's where they're doing the Rakugo, isn't it? The two fairies, one of them is a straight man and one of them is the goofy dude, and they're telling comedy. Yeah, that's a style of comedy in Japan. I heard about that and wanted to see it.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. The localization, in that part, isn't amazing because they just don't. I'm sure they lose some of the nuance and the humor, but it's still a funny sequence, and I really like that area, so I appreciate this pick. Musically, I can't think of a lot to say about it. It's kind of whimsical and fun.
For me, it has that very orchestral, chamber performance Studio Ghibli feel, and I actually thought it was a lot more dramatic than I would expect from seeing Drippy, but if you said it plays in that area, that makes a little more sense to me, at least, because it seems so dramatic for that guy who's forgive me, but looks kind of derpy.
Yeah.
He's not derpy, he's Welsh.
Well, he's Welsh, yeah, but he's very quirky looking, and I was wow, this is awfully, this is kind of dramatic for that little dude.
Have you ever heard his voice, though? He has a deep voice.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he's very, he's a...
yeah, I've heard it.
He's kind of a smart aleck, yeah. That's his thing.
That's what caught me completely off guard. To be honest, I haven't played the game, so I didn't know anything about it. I had no context with it, but I started listening to it. I was wow, this is actually... Epic is not... I don't know really how to put it. It's just it was surprisingly well composed. Epic is probably too strong of a word, but it's the only word I can think of right now. But I didn't expect it to be as boisterous as it was throughout the entire thing.
I would correct you on saying surprisingly, though, because it's Joe Hisaishi, who is the guy who does all of the Studio Ghibli movies. So I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I think what you meant was that you were surprised because you didn't know what to expect from the track, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I got you.
Yeah, me either. Again, I haven't played the game. Just now I'm judging based on outward appearance, but I did not expect a character to look like that, to have a song like that. I expected something kind of silly.
Drippy's the man. He's one of the coolest characters.
He's got a lamp on his face. It makes him very handy.
That's what it is. I think it's the lamp on the face.
Yeah, well, it's useful.
And then let's move on to what's probably going to end up being everyone's favorite track here.
Yeah.
Desert. Hyperduck Soundworks, Penny Arcade 4. We played the final boss theme from the game earlier in the episode, and I love Hyperduck. It's just, this was one of the first tracks they released before the game came out, and while I will follow up my earlier comments of saying I don't think the music fits the game at all, I think it's very... I don't feel like the music is very well matched to the areas it's in, but it still gives the game a really interesting vibe as a result, because the music is amazing and just so interesting and evocative, but I don't really get... Like, I don't think desert when I hear this. But, like, the bridge, the piano is just so somber, and just it has this really great kind of oscillation between highs and lows, and just has such a sense of drama to it that I really, really like it. It's par for the course for Hyperduck. Those guys are great.
I kind of feel like even the name of the track, just the desert, does it a disservice, because it doesn't...
Yeah.
You know, it's just the desert. I mean, I expect to hear, like, no, and then blowing wind and... something evoking a tumbleweed, you know, rolling through the desert sand or something. But you hear the desert.
And Arizona.
Having lived in Arizona all my life, that's what it sounds like. I just open my door and I get like the tumbleweed. It happens every day. But yeah, so the both the title and the environment in the game kind of don't do it justice. So it's a cooler song than one might imagine.
It could be one of my favorite songs we've listened to thus far. Like, easily. Like, having never heard it before this, I mean, blown away. I loved it.
It's a really great soundtrack.
It's good in general. And then our final track from this block was the Tokyo Map theme from Shin Megami Tensei 4. The comparison I want to make, it's not quite the same, but it really is almost evocative of when you get out of Midgar in Final Fantasy VII. Because in Final Fantasy VII, you spend the good first portion of the game in this sprawling city that feels like it's big enough and alive enough to be the setting for an entire game. And then you get out and you're like, holy crap, there's a whole world map with other places, and I was just in this tiny little dot on the map. Of course, nowhere else on the map is as big or as fully realized as Midgar, as you later find out. But it's kind of similar in Shin Megami Tensei 4. Maybe not to the same degree. But when you start Shin Megami Tensei 4, you're in this place, the Eastern Kingdom of Mikado, and your mission as a samurai is to go into this dungeon called Naraku, and it just goes deeper and deeper, and you have to keep retreating to town and healing up and restocking and fusing more demons, and you spend a lot of time delving into it, and there comes a point where you get deep into Naraku. I mean, like, we're talking, you know, probably like 5 hours, maybe more, like 5 to 8 hours into the game, you finally emerge from Naraku into Tokyo, and you're like, what? There's a whole area, like there's a whole world map outside of this, so Naraku feels like it's big enough to be the whole dungeon for the game, and it's going to keep changing. Kind of like if you've played Etrian Odyssey, you know how the labyrinths, at least in the first few titles, like the labyrinths keep, you know, they get deeper, and then they just change completely environmentally. Whereas, so you think that might be the case with SMT4, but no, you emerge into Tokyo. So I know that was a really long-winded explanation of it, sort of like a game mechanic thing, but the track, I think, has impact for that reason. You may not get quite as much of it if you just listen to it on its own, but I like it a lot. It's very cyberpunky and kind of illustrates the combination of technology ruling and like the desolation of Tokyo being overrun by demonic forces.
What's interesting about it to me, like, I like your comparison to Final Fantasy VII. Like, I think because they showed footage in advance of Tokyo, like, if you start SMT4, it's like, what's going on? This is medieval. Like, it's very bizarre. But then there are, like, computers in certain places, so it's very, like, confusing. And, like, the music up to that point is very... It suits the kinds of areas you're in, and then all of a sudden you're in Tokyo, and the game just gets dark. Like, visually dark. Like, it's nighttime in Tokyo, and, like, you get, like, all the, like, the lights and stuff. And so you have this, like, really different vibe. And I think this song captures that well and links it very well to earlier SMT games. Just their style and their sound.
Yeah, there's the contrast, I think, makes it a little bit more exciting as well. From literal daytime in Mikado to literal nighttime in Tokyo.
I would agree. So, with that, we're going to move on to our final block of audience picks.
Now we're on the final form.
Final form. This really is my final form. So, coming up from So both Arclight and, I'm going to apologize if I mispronounce your game again, but Jean-Marc Giffon, I think it is, but he's a very strong supporter, so I hope I got your name right. This is Id Purpose from Fire Emblem Awakening. And then after that also is another Valdis story track, Beneath the Surface, which I'm a big fan of that one in particular. And then, we have another thread for the podcast up on VGMDB, and a nice fellow by the name of Jedi Questmaster requested some tracks from Mega Man Battle Network 2. Being that I'm an avid fan of those games, I was very happy to hear that, because I really like the song that he picked. This is the Hometown. It's AC/DC Town from Mega Man Battle Network 2, which is an arrangement of the Hometown song from the first game. So it's kind of cool to see how they progress if you listen to both of them. And then last is Heartening, quote, Dance of the Cornered Rat, quote, from Sigma Harmonics. And again, one of our oldest listeners, Michael Thornton Peregrine on the boards, I believe. Forgive me if I got your appellation wrong. It's a really interesting track from Sigma Harmonics. You had requested some Sigma Harmonics, so I thought we'd hook you up there. So let's go ahead and take a listen to Id Purpose, Beneath the Surface, AC/DC Town, and Heartening, Dance of the Cornered Rats.
Fire Emblem has really good music in general, and I maintain that the music was one of my favorite parts of Fire Emblem Awakening. This track was really long, and it had a lot of callbacks to past games, many of which I'm not sure I recognized right away, but Mike, you said you knew at least one of them?
Well, I reckon it was about 3 minutes, a little over 3 minutes. And I don't know which Fire Emblem it's from because I did not play it. I just know it as that Fire Emblem song in Smash Brothers.
I think it plays when Marth wins a battle, doesn't it? Or when Ike wins a battle, like da na 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 da.
That's the main one, right?
I think that is like
that was like the series main thing.
Isn't that like the main thing of the series? Maybe. I mean, that would make sense why they would put it in Brawl.
Yeah.
But
no, I thought that was a nice touch. It wasn't in there very much. It was just in there a little bit. I like that a lot.
Yeah, actually, what's great about that song, we've already talked about it a few times in other segments, but that's one of those songs that gives you a sense of history throughout the game because it just pulls in so many different musical references from earlier in that game and clearly earlier in the series, and just like the marching band and like the kind of the drums and the choir and everything. It's very dramatic, and I think that's the track that plays during the final battle. I could be wrong because I haven't actually done the final battle, but I like the whole soundtrack, but that one is a really great musical culmination.
Well, it seems like a good place to put a track like that, especially at 8 minutes long.
A lot of the tracks in the game are pretty lengthy, just because it's tailored to the kind of game it is. You have cutscenes with lots of dialogue and then lengthy strategy battles. And then Beneath the Surface, I adore the Valda's Story soundtrack. I've reviewed it, talked about it. I think we played one track from it. I don't think we played two. But Zach Parrish has this kind of, like, the way I associate with Shimomura her violins, I always associate this really particular style of guitar to Zach Parrish's music, and it makes me think of Valdas. Mike, you said it reminded you of Metroid?
Yeah, it kind of has a Super Metroid vibe to it. I'm not sure which track. Maybe Meridia, Brinstar. I don't know, like a combination of them. But it kind of has this Metroid-y feel to it, which I like.
That's probably a good thing too, because the game is a Metroidvania, and it's definitely heavily inspired by Super Metroid. It's like when I think of my favorite Metroids, which would be Zero Mission, and well, most of them that I've played I really liked, but like when I think of Super Metroid or Zero Mission, I think of just how inextricably tied the music is to the area. Like visually, the music suits Valda's Story so well. So much so that I can recognize the area from the music, like just in my mind, and like that song is just very somber and just. It reminds me of just like hopping around platforming in that area. It's super duper cool.
I gotta play more of that game because the music is good. There are some things about that game that don't work for me perfectly, but the music has universally been incredibly good from everything I've heard.
Yeah, overall I think it's a great game. It has some rough spots and what I would call some balancing issues here and there, but overall I think if you like Metroidvania games, especially those with amazing music, which actually gives you a lot of options because Castlevania, Metroid. But, okay, it's a good one, and it's not that expensive, so it's definitely worth trying.
Oh, yeah, the subtle guitar work in the background was easily my favorite part of the track as well. There's
a lot of that in that soundtrack, and it's definitely one of the strengths of it. And it suits well, because you'll have like an area theme that kind of has that subtle guitar, and then as boss battle themes start, it gets really like, and just gets really cool.
Exactly like that. Following that, we got to hear AC/DC Town from Mega Man Battle Network 2. I thought it was really cool to have a Chippy song mixed in there. I am very partial to my chip tunes, so I'm always happy to hear some, as long as it's not the only thing I get to hear.
We need to play more Chippy style, like Game Boy Advance music.
Yeah, I agree, because I love my chip.
Oh man.
It's okay. There's something to be said about the dedication, I guess, on the composer's part to creating a really memorable melody, because melody is almost all you have most of the time, and depending on how far back you go or what kind of fidelity you're working with. But this is a GBA game, so they have a bit more to work with. But I really like the peppy chippiness of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way sounds sound from the Game Boy Advance.
I love the way sounds sound.
Well, Game Boy Advance games have a very particular sound palette, and like some people really identify with the Super Nintendo. I identify with Genesis, but Game Boy Advance, we kind of all have one of those, and it's just like it has like this old school like digitally sound, and it reminds me of spending. I remember playing all the Battle Network games when I would visit my uncle for the summers in Massachusetts. Like I just remember like sitting on the couch in their house, and it was always super cold because he always kept the air conditioner at like 65. And no, I do. I thought it was great too, and just sitting there like endlessly playing Mega Man Battle Network, and I love the AC/DC Town song. So I was so excited when Jedi Questmaster brought it up, and it's friendly. Like, that's, like, you could say those games are child friendly, and to an extent they are, but I think there's also enough meat in those games that you can really sink into it, and it's just kind of, it's a happy game to play. Like, it's a goofy premise, you're getting on the internet and, like, jumping into TVs and toasters to fight Mega Man Robot Masters, and, and, like, the melody is great. I feel real good about that song.
It's just fun.
Yeah, I mean,
it's fun. Like, I haven't heard that song in years and years and years and years, and I don't actively go back and listen to these soundtracks, although I should. I kind of want to play one now. But I remembered it immediately. The melody just right away. Because that's actually, I'm 99% sure that's actually an arrangement of the hometown song from the first Mega Man Battle Network, which is the same city.
So when Steven said that it has a lot of meat into it and you could sink into it, and am I the only one that pictured Mega Man like in a room full of meat?
Yes.
Thinking? Okay.
Must have been.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
No one's on board with this, just me.
I mean, I'm normally fine with any kind of meat-related metaphor or euphemism, but this time I guess not. You're on your own, Mike.
Okay, I'm going to go over here now.
That's fine. So after that, we listened to a song that didn't make me think of meat, but it was called Heart Meat, Dance of the Cornered Rat, because I don't like rat meat.
You don't?
Sigma Harmonics. My first thought is, I need this soundtrack. Sigma Harmonics was an iOS game, and it did not come out in North America, correct?
It was a DS game, and you had to hold the DS sideways.
What are you saying to me?
I am saying these things. I mean, it might have.
What? Really? So it was a DS game? I mean, I believe you. I thought it was I thought, what am I thinking of? Because there was some iOS game where you had to, like, import MP3s. Or maybe it was even an iPod game.
That was Song Summoner.
Oh, okay. So I'm off.
You had to use the wheel on the old iPod.
Yes. Okay, I'm thinking of Song Summoner. My bad. So Sigma Harmonics, I know nothing about. Go on.
Yeah, well, I had always wanted to try it, and now that I can read Japanese, I probably will. But yeah, you have to hold the 3DS as like a book, and it was a quirky little game, and that I can't comment too heavily on, but it was, I think, some of Masashi Hamauzu's earlier work with Square Enix. Well, not earlier, but earlier than now. That's why I got. I know Mike didn't. You said earlier, but I got such a Final Fantasy 13 vibe from that, like the piano and the violins backing the piano, like kind of overlaid on top of it, and just that sort of like forward motion that I always associate with Hamauzu's tracks. Just all over that song. Really liked it, though.
Yeah, I dug it all the way through as well.
But yeah, that's all we get for you people. This is the end. Well, it's not the end. It's the new beginning.
This is
Fernando's new beginnings.
When one door closes, another door opens.
Exactly. So to all of you who sent us picks, and if I missed any of you, I'm really sorry. But like I said, hit me up. We'll get you. I promise I'll make it up to you. Probably next year. But thank you so much to everybody who sent picks in. You guys sent a really great variety of things in there, and a lot of stuff that I hadn't heard, like especially the Pokemon music, the Might and Magic stuff. Just lots of interesting things that I think made for a great finale to all of this recording we've been doing. And so a little something I thought of right before we recorded that I wanted to do is that at the very beginning of this, at the outset, Derek and I recorded sort of an introduction because we couldn't wait to thank everybody for helping us get here this year. And what I actually decided to do is to literally thank everybody whose name I have. So I'm going to go down the list of all of you listeners that have posted either on VGMDB, you've emailed me and Derek, you've hit us on Twitter, you want an RPG fan, but you're all getting shout-outs. And now some of you I know by your real name, and some of you I know by your handle on a message board. And if I mix any of them up, I apologize, but I think I have them right, but you're free to yell at me. Or you get lucky and I'll read your handle and your real name and you'll get, 2 mentions. But so going down the list, we've got Holy Kale 1, King of Fighters vs. Capcom, End of Pie, Monsoon, we appreciate you even though you're tough on us. Al Hizzy, my favorite Eorzean friend, other than my other favorite Eorzean friends. Arclight, thank you for the cool story. Retta, Glenn, Evil East Alliance, Jean-Marc, my friend Mathieu, my friend Dan Lewis, Jedi Questmaster from VGMDB, Winifred Phillips, James O., Josh Bateman, also an editor now, Mike Thornton, Wendriel, Ultra 7K, Wild Armor, Grain of a River, insert name here, Darylon, _Vandalier_, Unsmashable Pumpkin, a.k.a. Unmashable Potato, Cetra Blues, Zachary Sarver, Barrel, Larson Blurst, and William Reyes. Also, thank you so much to Kan Gao for composing our original musical theme, Sean Shafagansky for composing the Halloween version and the new version of the theme that you probably heard at the beginning of this episode, Ivy Tran for coming to do an interview with us, Casey Orman for showing up and doing a whole episode with us, Tom Lipschultz for doing like 6 episodes worth of content with us, Kyle Miller for being a guest, Rob Steinman for being a guest, Mike, you right here, Brian, thank you for coming on your first podcast, John Tucker, Mac from RP Gamer, Don Kotowski from SEMO, Derek, thank you very kindly for doing this wonderful journey with me.
Of course.
I even wrote my own name down to thank myself because
you have to let me thank you. You have to let me thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen Meyerink, Talos on the Boards, for being an awesome co-pilot and for starting this venture.
Thank you. All of you people whose names I listed and anybody I missed and anyone who doesn't comment but still listens to us, thank you so much. I've had a lot of listeners tell us that they have this newfound appreciation of video game music thanks to listening to us. People who, like, by and large, just used to ignore it altogether. I've heard that story more times, like, than I can remember now. And just there have been times where I'm, like, super frustrated by all the editing I have to do or such scheduling or trying to get things sorted out where I'm, like, up at 3 a.m. wondering if anyone is getting anything out of this. And I just really sincerely want to thank every single person that's been involved with this, that's listened to it, that's helped me put it together, just with everything I have, because all of the nice things you say, and even the things you don't say, just by listening, and especially those of you telling us that you appreciate this music in a new way, are just the best thing that someone making something could ask for. And it's just, when I started doing this, that was all I wanted to do. And just, when we started out, I even wrote on the boards, I said, my starry-eyed idealistic goal, or damn fool idealistic crusade, depending on how Star Wars literate you are, was just to foster increased awareness and appreciation of game music. And thanks to all of you people, after a year of doing this, I really, I would take away the starry-eyed thing. I guess it's not that unreasonable, because you guys appear to be enjoying it, and if you're looking at game music in even a slightly different way now, or if you're turning up the volume when you wouldn't have, I feel like we've done our job, and so many of you have already said that. So thank you all so sincerely for listening to Rhythm Encounter for an entire year, and be sure to keep up next month, because I promise we'll have another episode coming. So thanks for listening to Music of the Year. Thanks for reading all of our cool interviews. Brian, Derek, Mike, thank you guys for being here. And I think to break with tradition, I picked the surprise track this time. No one knew this was coming, but I've never had the opportunity to do it, so I kind of want to do it. And I wanted to indulge in just something super epic as a finale. So this is from the Linked Horizons Lux and Dark Kiko album, which is a collection of live performances of Bravely Default tunes by the composer-performer Revo. And the track is Serpent Eating the Horizon. It is the final boss theme, and it is amazingly epic, and I think suits how I feel coming out of this long recording and editing session. So thank you, everyone, for listening to Rhythm Encounter. So taking us out is Serpent Devouring the Horizon from Lux and Dark Kiko.